Let's go out to the D&M Leasing Hotline to talk to the one, the only, Nick Harris. Nick, how you doing today, buddy? I know it's a lot of gloom and doom when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. Are you feeling gloom and doom, or is your morale a little bit higher than the Cowboys?
No, morale's always high. Doing well. I don't think you're the only one, though, Blake. I texted Bobby early this morning. Typically, he gets back within a couple hours. Haven't heard from him today. We might need to send a gopher out to Bobby. Make sure he's good.
Well, no, he was just on Cowboys Crosstalk, so we know he's good. We know he's alive. You two just aren't on his list of people that he wants to talk to, I guess, right now.
How many people are texting Bobby?
Obviously more than you two. That's the real question. What's the vibe? And I know that word has gotten just beaten down, overused, and abused. But look, you're out there on a regular basis. What is the feeling in that facility right now versus where we were at 8-9 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think a week ago there was still confidence in the building, and not to say that entire confidence is completely gone, but you're starting to see that confidence start to whittle down a little bit. I mean, when you have Micah Parsons tweeting out this morning about guys that they should grab in the first round of the draft, I think that's when you kind of look around and see where this thing is heading, and I think players are starting to realize that too. But overall, I mean, the vibe is there still is 8 weeks left in this season, and they do have a job to do at the end of the day. But overall, I think these guys are just trying to find some wins, and they're trying to find some sort of consistency, specifically offensively.
You're listening to Nick Harris covering the Dallas Cowboys and NFL Draft for Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Nick, when you look at the Mike McCarthy situation, he's been bashed on. People have already making coaching ideas of what's going to be for the Dallas Cowboys next year. From seeing him on a more often period than most of us, how is he taking this news, and how do you see this kind of playing out?
Yeah, for Mike, I think he's been super consistent over the course of these last few weeks as well. Obviously, starting to grow really frustrated about the offense. And, he took some self-accountability after the game on Sunday, but also looked at 5 turnovers. You can't turn the ball over 5 times and expect to even be close in a ball game unless you're the Detroit Lions, right? But I think looking around, Mike is, once again, it's kind of the same with him day by day, and just trying to finish these 8 weeks as strong as he can too.
And again, you hate to, start saying that this guy's not going to make it, what have you. But I mean, look, he's on a lame duck contract anyway, as it is. When do you get to start speculating? I mean, like I said, you're a beat reporter, so you're doing the day to day, and so you've got that kind of fine line of you're still seeing these guys on a day to day basis, and you got to talk to them about the season now. But at the same time, you got readers who are already saying, "Look, if Mike is talking about it, the fans are ready to start talking about it."
Yeah, I think with McCarthy specifically, you look at the schedule ahead, 2 really tough opponents in the Texans and the Commanders, and then the Giants on Thanksgiving. If they were to somehow lose these next 3, especially with the third one being the Giants on Thanksgiving Day, I don't see how a move is not made after something like that. Jerry Jones has said multiple times, even on y'all's radio waves, that he does not want to make a change in the middle of the season because he regretted doing it to Wade Phillips years back. But I think it could eventually come to a decision where it's, them two coming together in a room and being like, hey, I think this works for both of us if we split ways, and it's more of a mutual parting. That's just me theorizing. That's me speculating, like you said. But that's kind of what I have an eye out for. But I don't think there has been a lot of wavering from Jerry Jones as far as what Mike McCarthy, has as far as finishing this season. And it sounds like he's still on par to do that. But it's tough for me to see a reality where they lose these next 3 straight and finish it off with Thanksgiving loss to New York and Mike McCarthy still be the head coach 12 days later because they'll have a big break before playing the Cincinnati Bengals.
Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram. So wasn't going to something different, but kind of going off your last thing you just said. So you think there's a great possibility if they were to go on this losing streak that Mike McCarthy gets fired in season? I think a lot of fans are preparing for it to be an off-season move of just him not being brought back on that 1-year deal. But you're saying you think there might be a little bit of a chance that he doesn't even make it through the season?
Yeah, that's just me speculating at the end of the day. I think, when you look at them having a Monday night game against Cincinnati the following week, if you wanted to bring in a new head coach, he'd have, damn near 2 weeks to be able to integrate what he wants to get integrated and the players get comfortable. And then they'll be able to have even the extra day the following week going into a Monday night game. And they're able to stay at home for that game as well. It just makes the most sense. Like if there's an opportunity to do it, it would be then, especially if they lose lose to the Giants on Thanksgiving, it just kind of makes sense to make it happen at that moment. But again, that's just me speculating. It's not necessarily anything I know.
And then, Nick, when it comes to the O-line with the health of it, we see Chuma back on that 21-day window. We know Tyler Smith is working out away from the team. Kind of how do you see all that playing out with Guyton, Sim Richards? Who's going to be starting on Monday? Who are you looking for moving forward? Is there any injury concerns? Just kind of the health of the O-line right now.
Yeah, the definitely a banged up room. Tyler Guyton, he had been dealing with the neck injury that he suffered against Atlanta, but it was actually the shoulder strain that kept him out of the game against the Eagles. Austin Richards played really well. Got to give credit to the second-year guy out of North Carolina, and he spoke today and was really happy about his performance. He's from the Philadelphia area, so it was really cool to have his first NFL start against the Eagles. And I thought when it came to pass protection, he was probably number one or number two, at least in my takeaways from that game as far as consistency and pass protection. Maybe some things in run block that he can work on a little bit better. But, I mean, that's the first time he's taken legitimate snaps in the NFL regular season in his entire career. So it was really big for him. But as far as who could start on Sunday, I think they go back to Guyton with him being healthy. It makes the most sense. They're trying to get him as many reps as possible. I mean, we're only 3 or 4 weeks away from Tyler Guyton having doubled his career starts in this season alone. He came into the NFL with only 14 career starts from his time at Oklahoma, and we're only a few more weeks away from him matching that so far in his NFL career. So there's still a lot of developing for Tyler Guyton that is left, and I think they want to see that out. But I'm under the impression that Chuma Edoga probably would have been the guy to start the season if he had been healthy. So I do wonder, once his practice window is up and they activate him onto the active roster, how do they get Chuma Edoga worked in as well? Because Mike McCarthy said it this morning that Chuma's integration back into that left tackle mix will be quote unquote healthy competition. So if there's a competition, then does that mean the starting job is up for grabs? And that's something that we'll for sure ask whenever he is back up to football shape and he's able to get back out on the field on the active 53-man roster.
Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram, talking all things Dallas Cowboys here on the D&M Leasing Hotline on the Fan After Dark. Sticking with the O-line, a question that we've kind of tossed around a little bit. And again, it's pure, look, it's sports radio. That's what we do. The fact that Tyler Guyton was a right tackle in college, played at a high level in college at the right tackle position, and had a serviceable, we'll call it that, start to his NFL career. With the way Terrence Steele has played, I got to believe that Zach Martin will not be a Dallas Cowboy at this time next year. Could you see some shuffling on that right side where maybe we see Tyler Guyton go back to his natural fit at right tackle?
I don't think you see that this year, but if it's something that could be an idea for the future, I think that's certainly something to look at. If there is a new head coach coming in and developing, that offensive side of the ball, then that's certainly something he would look at too, because I'm sure that coach would have experience, looking at Tyler Guyton in the draft process and understanding how well he did on the right side from his days at Oklahoma, and then also looking back at the film on Terrence Steele from this year, which has not been great. And he's certainly had his moments that have not fared his way. So I think it could be an option in the offseason, but if it's something that, you're potentially keeping an eye on going into the rest of the year, unless it's a situation where Terrence Steele gets hurt, I don't see them moving off of Terrence Steele. I see them riding it out.
Nick, as the season wanes and the Cowboys' chances to make the playoffs decrease every week, you start looking towards the NFL draft. What position battles currently on this team are you looking at that could be replaced by draft picks, whether it be the safety position, linebacker, lineman, running back, right? We know there's a plethora of needs for this team, but which ones are you kind of keeping an eye on for, hey, there could be a draft pick to replace this guy next year?
Man, all of them. I think everything you just mentioned there. You look at the defensive line, I think you can make a case for the interior. Osa Odighizuwa is on an expiring contract. Yep. If they're not able to bring him back, then that's a hole you're going to have to fill. You look at the linebacking core. Eric Kendricks is on a 1-year deal. That's potentially something you would have to replace, or you can move DeMarvion Overshown into Eric Kendricks' role, which I think could work out for Overshown in the future. You look at the corner spot, and we're starting to see that depth be tested a lot here this year. Granted, I don't think anybody expected the amount of injuries that have really stacked up at the corner position, but they could use one more. You look at the safeties. Neither of them have played particularly well. When you look at a guy even in the first round, like a guy like Malachi Starks out of Georgia, if that's an option for them, then, do they pull the trigger on a guy like that? I think you can make a case for damn near any position. Mac Engel at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram wrote a column over the weekend about, hey, it's not out of the question to maybe draft a quarterback in the first round with how Dak's health has trended over the last 3 years. And you want somebody who could potentially develop behind Dak, but also be ready to go in case this happens again, instead of having to turn to, Cooper Rush and or Trey Lance in the future. So I really do think there is a case to make for any position in the first round, but kind of gives them the opportunity to take best player available. But it's basically going to be best need available.
I know Jerry Jones has said on these airwaves, and he would never say it publicly. And of course, you have no way of knowing. But do you think Jerry and this front office is having buyer's remorse on Dak Prescott?
I don't know. There's nothing that Jerry has said or Steven has said that, maybe even alludes to that thought just yet. I do know that I think we can all agree Dak is going to be a guy that attacks this rehab with a ton of work ethic. But at the end of the day, will his body hold up for 4 more years? And I think that's a question that everybody has right now. Is it necessarily buyer's remorse? I think that would have to be some yes, Jerry or Steven. I don't want to put words in their mouths, but I think it is certainly something to think about. I think if you had told them, hey, he's going to tear his hamstring in week 9 right after you guys sign this, I'm sure that they look at this deal a little bit differently. I think that would be human nature, but it's in the books now, and they have to ride it out for the next 4 years. And I think all sides would be hoping for more health for Prescott for this contract as compared to the last one.
Good chat here with this. I mean, it's the least we could do. I mean, you got the Texans coming into town on Monday, and of course, Blake and I could sit here and try to come up with different ways to spin this, and hey, we could possibly find a win here, could possibly find a win there. But the reality is this: you got a very beat-up Dallas Cowboys team that's not very good right now versus a Texans team that needs to get a W, and they need to get a W fast.
Yeah, they do. And I think there's a little bit of urgency on their side to find a W. And they're bringing back Nico Collins for this game, or expected to. Looks like he'll be back from his hamstring injury. That will add them not only a big body possession guy in the receiving game, but they love to run Joe Mixon outside zone, especially to that left side. And if they can line up Nico Collins over on that left side and allow him to kind of block and one-on-one guys, then it allows Mixon to be one-on-one in the open field with tacklers. And that's not a good recipe for this Cowboys defense. And then you look on the Texans defensive side, I mean, they have stars on all 3 levels. You could talk about Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson on that front. They really get after the quarterback. I thought they made one of the best free agent additions of any team this offseason, and adding Azeez Al-Shaair in that linebacking core. And he does so many things that don't really get talked about for them in that second level. And then back in the secondary, Jalen Petre's been awesome once again this year. They have a secondary that's really starting to put it together. This is a tough matchup for the Cowboys. And I think if even the Cowboys were at full strength, full health, playing like they were last year, I would still say this is a tough matchup for the Cowboys. But when you factor all those factors into it, you kind of look at what you think might be coming.
Yeah, no, it could be a long night on Monday, and of course it's on Monday night, so the entire world gets to see it. Nick, great stuff from you as always, my friend. We kept the questions to under 30 seconds to save everybody, and we certainly appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys. You all have a great one.